Section 18 of Dutch Fairy Tales for Young Folks. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Dorothy Godfrey Smith. Dutch Fairy Tales for Young Folks by William Elliot Griffis. The Mouldy Penny. Gold makes a woman penny white, said the Dutch in the days when fairies were plentiful and often in their thoughts. What did the proverb mean? Who ever saw a white penny? Well, that was long ago, when pennies were white, because they were then made of silver. Each one was worth a denarii, which was a coin worth about a shilling, or a quarter of a dollar. As the Dutch had pounds, shillings, and pence before the English had them, we see what D in the signs pound SD means, that is, a denarii, or a white penny made of silver. In the old days, before the Dutch had houses with glass windows, or clothes of cloth or linen, or hats or shoes, cows and horses, or butter and cheese, they knew nothing of money, and they cared less. Almost everything, even the land, was owned in common by all. Their wants were few. Whenever they needed anything from other countries, they swapped or bartered. In this way they traded salt for furs, or fish for iron. But when they met with or had to fight another tribe that was stronger or richer, or knew more than they did, they required other things, which the forests and waters could not furnish. So, by and by, peddlers and merchants came up from the south. They brought new and strange articles, such as mirrors, jewelry, clothes, and pretty things which the girls and women wanted, and had begged their daddies and husbands to get for them. For the men, they brought iron tools and better weapons, improved traps to catch wild beasts, and wagons with wheels that had spokes. When regular trade began, it became necessary to have money of some kind. Then coins of gold, silver, and copper were seen in the towns and villages, and even in the woods and on the heaths of Holland. Yet there was a good deal that was strange and mysterious about these round, shining bits of metal called money. Money? What is money? Asked many a proud warrior disdainfully. Then the wise men explained to the fighting men that money was named after Juno Moneta, a goddess in Rome. She told men that no one would ever want for money who was honest and just. Then, by and by, the mint was in her temple, and money was coined there. Then later, in Holland, the word meant money, but many people who wanted to get rich quickly worshipped her. In time, however, the word gold meant money in general. When a great ruler named Charlemagne conquered or made treaties with our ancestors, he allowed them to have mints and to coin money. Then again it seemed wonderful how the peddlers and the goldsmiths and the men called Lombards, strange, long-bearded men from the south who came among the Dutch, grew rich faster than the work people. They seemed to amass gold simply by handling money. When a man who knew what a silver penny would do made a present of one to his wife, her face lighted up with joy. So in time the word penny white meant the smiling face of a happy woman. Yet it was also noticed that the more people had, the more they wanted. The girls and boys quickly found that money would buy what the peddlers brought. In the towns shops sprang up, in which were many curious things which tempted people to buy. Some tried to spend their money and keep it too, to eat their cake and have it also, but they soon found that they could not do this. There were still many foolish as well as wise people in the land, even during the new time of money. A few saved their coins and were happy in giving some to the poor and needy. Many fathers had what was called a sparpot, or home savings bank, and taught their children the right use of money. It began to be the custom for people to have family names, so that a girl was not merely the daughter of so and so, nor a boy the son of a certain father. In the selection of names, those which had the word penny in them proved to be very popular. To keep a coin in the little home bank without spending it, long enough for it to gather mold, which it did easily in the damp climate of Holland, that is, to darken and get a crust on it, was considered a great virtue in the owner. This showed that the owner had a strong mind and power of self-control. So the name Schimmelpennig, or Mouldy Penny, became honorable because such people were wise and often kind and good. They did not waste their money, but made good use of it. On the other hand were some mean and stingy folks who liked to hear the coins jingle. Instead of wisely spending their cash or trading with it, they hoarded their coins. That is, they hid them away in a stocking or a purse or in a jar or a cracked cooking pot that couldn't be used. Often they put it away somewhere in the chimney, behind a loose brick. Then at night, when no one was looking, these miserly folks counted, rubbed, jingled, and gloated over the shining coins, and never helped anybody. So there grew up three sorts of people, called the thrifty, the spendthrifts, and the misers. These last were the meanest and most disliked of all. Others, again, hid their money away, so as to have some when sick or old, and they talked about it. No one found fault with these, though some laughed and said, "A penny in the savings jar makes more noise than when it is full of gold." Even when folks got married, they were exhorted by the minister to save money, so as to have something to give to the poor. Now, when the fairies that work down underground heard that the Dutch had learned the use of money, and had even built a mint to stamp the metal, they held a feast to talk over what they should do to help or harm. In any event, they wanted to have some fun with the mortals above ground. That has always been the way with kabouters. They are in for fun, first, last, and always. So, with punches and hammers, they made counterfeit money. Then, in league with the elves, they began also to delude misers and make them believe that much money makes men happy. A long time after the mint had been built, two kabouters met to talk over their adventures. "It is wonderful what fools these creatures called men are," said the first one. "There's old Vrek. He has been hoarding coins for the last 50 years. Now he has a pile of gold in guilders and stivers, but there's hardly anything of his old self left. His soul is as small as a shrimp. I whispered to him not to let out his money in trade, but to keep it shut up. His strong box is full to bursting, but what went into the chest has oozed out of the man. He died last night, and hardly anybody considers him worth burying. Someone on the street today asked what Vrek had left behind. The answer was, 'Nothing. He took it all with him, for he had so little to take.'" "That's jolly," said the older kabouter, who was a wicked-looking fellow. "I'll get some fun out of this. To shrivel up souls will be my business henceforth." There's nothing like this new-fangled business of getting money. That will do it so surely." So this ugly old imp went snooping around, as the Dutch say about people who sneak and dodge in and out of places to which they ought not to go, and in houses where they should not be found. This imp's purpose was to make men crazy on the subject of making money, when they tried, as many of them did, to get rich quickly in mean ways. Sorry to tell, the imp found a good many promising specimens to work upon at his business of making some wise men foolish. He taught them to take out of their souls what they hoarded away. To such fellows, when they became misers, he gave the name of Shim, which means a shadow. It was believed by some people that such shriveled up wretches had no bowels. Soon after this, a great meeting of kabouters was held in the dark realms below ground. Each one told what he had been doing on the earth. After the little imps had reported, the chief kabouter, when his turn came, cried out, "I shall tell of 3 brothers, and what each one did with the first silver penny he earned." "Go on," they all cried. "I've caught one Shim young. He married a wife only last year, but he won't give her 1 gulden a year to dress on. He skimps the table, pares the cheese till the rind is as thin as paper, and makes her live on skim milk and barley. Besides this, he won't help the poor with a stiver. I saw him put away a bright and shining silver penny, fresh from the mint. He hid coin and pocketbook in the bricks of a chimney. So I climbed down from the roof, seized both, and ran away. I smeared the purse with wax and hid it in the thick rib of a boat by the wharf. There the penny will gather mold enough. Ha ha ha!" At this the little imps broke out into a titter that sounded like the cackle of a hen trying to tell she had laid an egg. "Good for you! Serves the old Shim right," said a good kabouter who loved to help human beings. "Now I'll tell you about his brother, who has a wife and baby. He feeds and clothes them well, and takes good care of his old mother. Almost every week he helps some poor little boy or girl that has no mother or father. I heard him say he wished he could take care of poor orphans. So, when he was asleep at night, I whispered in his ear and made him dream. Put away your coin where it won't get mouldy, and show that a penny that keeps moving is not like a rolling stone that gathers no moss. Deliver it to the goldsmiths for interest, and leave it in your will to increase until it becomes a great sum. Then, long after you are dead, the money you have saved and left for the poor weezies (orphans) will build a house for them. It will furnish food and beds, and pay for nurses that will care for them, and good women who will be like mothers. Other folks, seeing what you have done, will build orphan houses. Then we shall have a wees house (orphan asylum) in every town. No child without a father or mother in all Holland will have to cry for milk or bread. Don't let your penny mold." The third brother, named Spilpenny, woke up on the same morning with a headache. He remembered that he had spent his silver penny at the gin house, buying drinks for a lot of worthless fellows like himself. He and his wife, with little to eat, had to wear ragged clothes, and the baby had not one toy to play with. When his wife gently chided him, he ran out of the house in bad humor. Going to the tap room, he ordered a drink of what we call Dutch courage, that is, a glass of gin, and drank it down. Then what do you think he did? "Tell us!" cried the imps uproariously. He went into a clothing house, bought a suit of clothes, and had it charged. "That's it. I've known others like him," said an old imp. Now it was Kermis day in the village, and all that afternoon and evening this spendthrift was roistering with his sell of Zupzaks, boon companions. With them it was always drunk, always dry. Near midnight, being too full of gin, he stumbled in the gutter, struck his head on the curb, and fell down senseless. Her husband not coming home that night, the distracted wife went out early in the morning. She found several men lying asleep on the sidewalks or in the gutters. She turned each one over, just as she did buckwheat cakes on the griddle, to see if this man or that was hers. At last she discovered her worthless husband, but no shaking or pulling could awake him. He was dead. Now there was a covetous undertaker in town, who carted away the corpse and then told the widow that she must spend much money on the funeral in order to have her husband buried properly, or else the tongues of the neighbors would wag. So the poor woman had to sell her cow, the only thing she had, and was left poorer than ever. That was the end of Spilpenny. "A jolly story!" cried the kabouters in chorus. "Served him right! Now tell us about Vrek the miser. Go on." "Well, the saying 'much coin, much care' is hardly true of him, for I and my trusty helpers ran away with all he had. With his first silver penny he began to hoard his money. He has been hunting for years for that penny, but has not found it. It will be rather mouldy, should he find it, but that he never will." "Why not?" asked a young imp. "For a good reason. He would not pay his boatmen their wages. So they struck and refused to work. When he tried to sail his own boat, it toppled over and sunk, and Vrek was drowned. His wife was saved the expenses of a funeral, for his carcass was never found, and the covetous undertaker lost a job." "What of the third one?" they asked. "Oh, Mynheer Eerlik, you mean. No harm can come to him. Everybody loves him, and he cares for the orphans. There will be no mouldy penny in his house." Then the meeting broke up. The good kabouters were happy. The bad ones, the imps, were sorry to miss what they hoped would be a jolly story. When 1,000 years passed away, and the age of newspapers and copper pennies had come, there were no descendants of the two brothers Spilpenny and Shim. But of Mynheer Eerlik there were as many as the years that had flown since he made a will. In this document he ordered that his money in guilders of gold and pennies of silver should remain at compound interest for 400 years. In time the ever-increasing sum passed from the goldsmiths to the bankers, and kept on growing enormously. At last this large fortune was spent in building hundreds of homes for orphans. According to his wish, each girl in the asylum dressed in clothes that were of the colors on the city arms. In Amsterdam, for example, each orphan child's frock is half red and half black with white aprons, and the linen and lace caps are very neat and becoming to their rosy faces. In Friesland, where golden hair and apple blossom cheeks are so often seen with the white lace and linen, someone has called the orphan girls apples of gold in pictures of silver. Among the many glories of the Netherlands is her care for the aged and the orphans. One of the 30 generations of the Eerliks read one day in the newspaper: "Last week while digging a very deep canal, some workman struck his pickaxe against timbers that were black with age and nearly as hard as stone. These, on being brought up, showed that they were the ribs of an ancient boat. Learned men say that there was once a river here, which long since dried up. All the pieces of the boat were recovered, and under the skilful hands of our ship carpenters have been put together, and the whole vessel is now set up and on view in our museum. "We'll go down tomorrow on our way home from school and see the curiosity," cried one of the Ehrlich boys, clapping his hands. "Wait," said his father, "there's more in the story." Today the janitor of the museum, while examining a wide crack in one of the ribs, which was covered with wax, picked the substance away. He poked his finger in the crack, and finding something soft, pulled it out. It was a rough leather purse, inside of which was a coin, mouldy with age and dark as the wood. Even after cleaning it with acid, it was hard to read what was stamped on it. But strange to say, the face of the coin had left its impression on the leather which had been covered with wax. From this, though the metal of the coin was black and the mold thick on the coin, what they saw showed that it was a silver penny of the age of Charlemagne, or the 9th century. Charlemagne is French, father, but we call him Carol the Groot, or Charles the Great. Yes, my son. Don't you hear Carol's clock, the curfew sounding? 'Tis time for little folks to go to bed. End of the Mouldy Penny. Recording by Dorothy Godfrey Smith.